You can get this and every other episode of the Rocking Horror Picture Show on Patreon, uncensored. The link is in the description below. Warning. Absolutely everything I'm about to talk about is beyond sickening, disgusting, and vile to its very core. Okay, I'm done selling you the movie. Let's jump in!
You're Mr. Sophistication, aren't you?
If you feel like screaming, I definitely think that you should.
The House That Jack Built is, without a doubt, one of the most controversial films ever made. And that's a grand pronouncement, given the film's director, a man who courts controversy with breathless ease. We're talking, of course, about the legendary Danish bastard, Lars Von Trier, one of my favorites in filmmaking. His legacy has all led up to this, his 2.5-hour meditation on murder. And let me tell you, he's created an ugly, sadistic film that honestly makes American Psycho look like BAMBI by comparison. So let's dive headlong into a pile of bodies. Let's explore the most violent and sadistic serial killer film to date. Let's get cozy in The House That Jack Built. Before we continue, consider smashing that subscribe button if your taste in movies runs as black as mine, and possibly a like if you want to egg me on to keep watching this shit. Look, Lars is no stranger to controversy. That's basically his calling card. Antichrist, for example. Within the first 5 minutes of runtime, Lars was thinking, what do audiences want?
Full penetration.
Guys, we're gonna show full penetration, and we're gonna show a lot of it.
And he showed a lot of it, which definitely had my jaw on the floor the first time I watched this flick. There's also that part in the end where he depicts a job that ends with a bloody spurt for the finale. And then there's Nymphomaniac, where you see penises smashing into vaginas semi-regularly. My guy loves to go there every single time, and I f***ing love him for it. His films really do push the envelope. A provocateur who deeply appreciates art and takes his mission as a filmmaker very seriously. Add this to the fact that my boy has a complete inability to express himself with any level of tact whenever he opens up to the press.
I know I really wanted to be a Jew, and then I found out that I was really a Nazi. You know.
Yet another reason to adore the ever-loving shit out of this man. But Lars is hardly a one-note maestro. Sure, he's made movies about sex, death, violence, and psychological torment, but also love, hope, and beauty. And the breadth of Lars's work all culminates with this, his 5-act film about the psychology of a serial killer. This is his magnum opus of murder, his Sistine Chapel built with the bodies of victims. So what makes this film so much more gruesome than previous attempts at the serial killer epic? It's mostly thanks to one element, the sadistic, almost intimate nature of Jack's kills. Each one makes this movie an extremely uncomfortable watch. Add a dash of unbearable narcissism from the title character, and we've got the perfect recipe for misery porn. The kind that shows the true nature of murder, not the fairy tale version you see in most films where killing is almost romanticized. Jack is a much different beast. The further we dive into Jack's mind, the more we're begging for an escape. Lars traditionally tells his tales through a philosophical dialogue between two interlocutors of opposing viewpoints. Nymphomaniac, for example, is a dialogue between a sexually promiscuous woman and an asexual man. And The House That Jack Built is no different. Jack's tale is explored through a dialogue between Jack himself and Verge, a Charon-type character who ferries souls between this world and hell. In between the scenes of murder, Jack explains his point of view on life, art, and death. These points of view are challenged by Verge, who sees art as a pursuit of love, whereas Jack sees it as an icon of neutral morality. Through listening to them speak, the audience is able to come to their own conclusions while exploring the Socratic-type dialogue between the two title characters. Jack, the title character, is a man consumed with his own sense of purpose. He often compares his body of work to that of building a house. You see, Jack isn't just a serial killer, he's also an architect. A not so successful one at that. And he harbors a dream of one day constructing the perfect house, one that he intends to build on a plot of land that he inherited. The perfect immortality project for a mediocre man. Sadly, his skills are never enough to build said house. At least, not a version that actually stands for longer than 5 minutes. This is the main fuel for Jack's sense of inadequacy, the fear that he'll never be capable of true genius. Like Salieri in Amadeus, born with great ambition, but limited talent. The perfect capsule for rotten desires, while one is swimming in his own insecurities and shame. Jack is very different from other cinematic serial killers in one very specific way. He is a thoroughly unlikable person, and that's what makes this film work so well. Lars wants you to feel disgusted by each act, repulsed by the protagonist, and most of all, he wants you, the viewing audience, to know one basic truth, that this film is a hate letter from him to you, and he wants you to suffer for indulging in his latest work.
The bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
That's why I'm here, by the way, to watch all of this shit, so you don't have to. Please like the video to applaud my efforts. This film wants you to squirm with the detailed nature of each kill, not to mention the horror of the outcome. Because Jack has a very specific use for his victims once they've been offed. He uses their bodies as material for art. Jack isn't in it for the kill, he's in it to create works of art from the corpses of his victims. A man of higher aspiration, or more specifically to Jack, a man of sophistication. So, to sum up his murderous MO, Jack knows that his vision of building a house will most likely never come to pass. But murder, now that's something he can build a legacy in. A house he's actually capable of building. Jack's murder spree is told across 5 incidents, each beginning with a different set of victims. Sometimes the act leads to several murders, but there's always a primary target, and each target acts as an evolution to Jack's murderous mentality. You're riding shotgun with Jack in his downward spiral, witnessing this evil evolution in a similar manner to an anthropologist tasked with studying the mind of a murderer. So, having set the stage, let's explore Jack's 5-episode murder spree in great detail. Jack's identity as a killer is birthed by a chance encounter with an annoying woman on the side of the road, played by none other than Uma Thurman, who sadly has no sick dance moves in this particular flick. But instead of a trophy wife for the Los Angeles underworld, she plays an uppity lady trying to get her car fixed. And let me tell you, Uma is the perfect candidate for victim number 1. You'll see why shortly. Uma convinces Jack to drive her to the repair shop to fix a broken tool that would help her replace her tire. That's right, the tool that needs fixing is a jack. Because of course it is. During the ride to the shop, Uma continuously plays roulette with her own life by continuously goading Jack. I really don't like to use this phrase, but Uma is literally asking for it here. She mocks his appearance, she tells him he looks like a stereotypical serial killer, and other such insensitive proclamations that could turn even the most gentle of souls into a depraved killer. Then, just to seal her fate, she describes exactly how easy it would be to make her body disappear in the woods. How deeply he'd need to dig a gravesite so that the foxes wouldn't dig her back up. And the most damning observation of all, how easy it would be to bash her brains in with the very tool that they set out to get fixed, the jack. A very appropriate name for a maiden voyage murder weapon. Finally, Jack has enough of her incessant prattle. He takes her ideas and suggestions to heart before grabbing the car jack and giving her the old
smash, smash, smash,
leaving very little of the poor woman's face. And once Jack drives his namesake repair tool directly into Uma's skull, he is endowed with an unexpected feeling, that of purpose. This experience is something that Jack compares to the work of Glenn Gould, a piano player who discovers each note to his compositions through painstaking exploration. And that first murder with the car jack, it just felt right. The notes to his life's grand opera were becoming clear. Each keystroke played would consist of murdering his victims. Jack has finally found his artistic calling card. Not only that, Jack has also discovered a brand new use for his victims, divine material, the perfect matter for his artistic needs. Through his work, the human body becomes something that can live on beyond death. And best of all for his new artistic mission, he has the perfect contraption to preserve his art. A giant freezer that he bought from a pizza dealer, still stuffed to the brim with pizzas. Jack's ambition with the freezer becomes clear: to have the corpses of his victims outnumber the Zaw. Jack's first kill leads to a curiosity, one that must be explored repeatedly. Now we're ready to meet his second victim, and the hunger that that kill will unleash. So Jack's now had a taste of murder. To push his mission forward, he needs something greater. The confidence to keep doing it. Some sort of divine permission to keep moving forward with his new body of work. So he decides to attempt the most unlikely kill of all, by convincing a stranger to open her door to him and allow him into her home, and then punishing her trust with death. This is honestly one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Jack basically goes up to the lady's door and asks,
"May I please enter right now?"
And the lady, predictably, is like, why? The reason that this scene is so funny is because it illustrates something about Jack that is very different from most cinema serial killers. Jack has negative charisma levels. Unlike Patrick Bateman or Hannibal Lecter, Jack feels like a malfunctioning appliance trying to imitate a human being. And it's here that we see how painful Jack's world truly is. He's unable to even mimic the performance of a human being without raising eyebrows and arousing suspicion. So Jack ungracefully strings several sentences along in an attempt to get into this clueless lady's home. First, he pretends to be a cop, but the lady insists to see a badge. So he shifts gears and claims that the badge is at the silversmith. The lady doesn't budge at Jack's story, giving an indifferent,
Okay.
Then Jack says, look, I'm lying about being a cop. I'm actually an insurance salesman. A very popular type of salesman, the type that most would immediately invite into their home. Everybody loves sitting through a presentation about the amount of money you'll earn should your spouse kick the bucket, after all. Fun times. Finally, after promising the woman to double her husband's pension, he is allowed entry.
Is this a shoes-off household?
I'm sure that this act of openness will work in this kind lady's favor, right? Oh. Jack chastises the woman for leaving him out on the doorstep, like an asshole. It really illustrates the viciousness of Jack's insecurity. He's forced to feel less than by this despicable creature who has no idea how hard he's worked to put on the performance of a human being. So he strangles her in a fit of rage. More specifically, he strangles her twice. You see, the first strangulation didn't take, as many first strangulations don't. Everybody knows that. So it forces him to double his efforts, giving the woman a second strangle that lasts for a much longer period of time. The lady appears thoroughly dead after that, but you can't be too sure, so Jack drives a knife into her heart. Not like in an emo song kind of way, like literally, finishing off his victim before wrapping her in plastic and hauling her body off to the truck. Normally, this would be the part where one gets the fuck out of Dodge and hightails it off into the night. Sadly, Jack is seized by his crippling disorder, OCD. Every time he's about to peel out, another potential blood splatter enters his mind, forcing him to re-examine the crime scene, just in case he left the tiniest shred of evidence behind. This hilarious back and forth goes on for a comical amount of instances. He thinks he's in the clear. But what about the chair? Okay, we got the chair. But what about the painting? Okay, nothing there. But what if there's blood somewhere? Jack goes back and forth, consumed by an OCD-driven cleanup process, that eventually we see the red and blue of police lamps as a siren blares in the distance. The siren slowly gets louder and louder. The 5-0 is on its way. And yet, no matter how close the police get, Jack just can't seem to tear himself away from his mess. It's really funny to watch him run back in one last time, when you can literally see the cop down the block. The cruiser finally arrives, and Jack is forced to greet the policeman with the same social grace that he's had for every other person in this movie. And yet, once again, he eludes suspicion by being so obviously suspicious. An interesting strategy, but one that works for him. The cop doesn't see Jack as a suspect. He sees him as an irritating distraction, and tells Jack to get lost. This is my crime scene now, buddy, and I intend to find the man responsible. F***ing incredible. As the officer searches the house for clues, Jack drives off into the night, with the body of his victim trailing the car in tow, her face being scraped to road pizza as it drags behind Jack's van. Appropriate, considering she's about to get stuffed into a giant pizza fridge. A new flavor of the month, perhaps? The face special, only at Domino's. I'm just kidding, Domino's, don't sue me. The drive home leaves a giant red trail right at his doorstep, leading me to wonder why he drove all the way to his main disposal site. Like, maybe you could just pull over after you're free and clear of the crime scene and load the corpse back into the trunk. That's just me, but in any case, this crimson streak that he's left behind will definitely lead any inquiring minds directly to the murder freezer. For a moment, Jack thinks himself to be caught. And then,
I'm only happy when it rains.
The sky opens up and the heavens pour with rain. This miraculous moment signals to Jack one simple truth. He has been given permission by God or the universe or whatever to continue on in his depraved work, because he'll never get caught. Jack realizes in that baptismal moment, this is what I was meant for. This is my life's work. I am literally... This all gives Jack the courage to kill again, with much less inhibition towards the act than ever before. In the past, he was controlled by his OCD, but after that last kill, he's just like, hey, let's haul corpses in and out of the truck like I'm delivering furniture from Facebook Marketplace. No subtlety, no sneakiness, just hauling bodies out in the open. After doing a photo shoot with some of his most recent victims, he realizes that his life's work is taking on a new focus, that of high art. You see, the photographs described are hilarious, because the bodies are put in strange poses as a result of being frozen in awkward forms while lying in the freezer. Jack realizes something during the photo shoot. These pictures are darkly hilarious, like rearranging furniture, but with bodies instead. Come on, who hasn't occasionally thought about raiding the morgue for cadavers so that you can use them as props for a silly photo shoot? No one else? Just me? Oh. Jack's narcissism really blooms in this section. As he looks over his photography, seeing the beauty in the work, he begins to see himself with a certain level of sophistication. And in that light bulb moment, a light bulb that, by the way, emits dark light in the negative, he realizes his true calling, and also his new nickname, Mr. Sophistication, a man of high taste, in case you couldn't tell from everything we've seen so far. Jack takes one of his prized photos and signs it with his new handle. He sends it off to the press. He doesn't want to be the only one reveling in his kills. He wants a little bit of fame to revel in as well. Hence the constant reuse of David Bowie throughout the film with the joyous... Jack is now a bold killer with the MO of a cultured artist, one who kills to create pieces of art that he believes will carry on his legacy, a legacy that will stand the test of time. A process similar to building that house he always dreamed of building, all with the bricks of corpses. And the next bricks that he's going to use to construct this house are the most depressing of all. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to enter the scene that made over 100 people walk out of the film's premiere. A scene that is so vile that a portion of it had to be cut around just to get a wide release. This is where the film earns its reputation for unabashed cruelty. So, if you're new to this whole movies that destroy your soul thing, fair warning, the following part is extremely f***ing bleak. Jack decides to build a nice little family. Between incidents 2 and 3, he apparently started dating a single mother of 2 boys, and has clearly taken on the role of father figure. He's taking the boys out for a manly rite of passage, the first family hunting trip. I mean that quite literally, by the way, because Jack is about to literally hunt a family down with a rifle, in case you couldn't already see where this was going. He tops each family member's head with mandatory MAGA hats. Nice one, Lars. Subtle. I'm sure the American right loved that one. Jack gives the boys a lesson about the ethics of good hunting. He sees it as barbaric, but necessary. To feed, to thin the herds, but never to feel powerful. To simply assert one's own will over nature. Basically, don't do the things he's about to do in 5 minutes. Do what I say, kids, not what I do. Then he teaches them the most relevant hunting message of all, that there's a necessary order in hunting. When hunting a family of deer, for example, you don't pick off the mother. That would mean that the fawns would starve to death without her. No, you must pick off the fawns first. That's ethical hunting. Slaughtering the children so that they don't get slaughtered by the elements later. I'm a little confused about this rule, to be quite honest, but Jack sees it as a thing of utmost importance. Probably because it gives him the perfect lens to see his latest murderous creation through. He's about to ethically hunt a family of humans. Which means, according to the rules, kids first. There are 2 cuts of the scene. In the wide release version, the shot cuts away from the exploding skull and kneecap of young children. The director's cut, however, does not shy away from showing you the full hunt in graphic detail. The red mist from headshotting the first child, the limb turning into a giblet like an old PC shooter on the other, and the mother screaming out in horror as she watches her little ones get picked off like prey. Lars really doesn't hold back here. It's little wonder that so many people walked out of this scene. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part, the family picnic. Again, I'm warning you, if your soul even contains trace amounts of purity, turn back for your own mental health. After that morbid little hunt, Jack sets up a nice picnic for the whole family. And by family, I mean the mother and the corpses of her children, who are propped up like human versions of museum-style taxidermy. their bodies held up by sticks while the shot off leg is placed loosely against the disconnected knee. And then, worst of all, he asks the mother to feed them.
Perhaps you'd like some of that pie.
And for whatever reason, the mother goes along with it, stuffing bits of apple pie into the dead child's mouth. Jack is very pleased with this outcome, which leaves one last victim to claim. So he asks the mother, "What's your favorite number?"
Everybody has a favorite number.
I mean, I don't, and most of the people that I know don't either. Although actually, I pulled my audience on this one. The consensus is that the best number was... Thanks, guys. I genuinely had no clue what the best number was. If you didn't take that poll, just tell me your favorite number in the comments. Happy to continue the number war. Anyways, the mother's favorite number turns out to be
12.
Huh, interesting choice. But that number turns out to be her countdown. And once Jack reaches 12, it's time to shine. With viscera and blood, if I'm being unclear. Jack counts down her sentence. And then... Great shot, Jack. S tier stuff. Then, he tracks down her blood trail, almost like he caught a legendary animal in Red Dead 2. Eventually, he finds her in a ditch, shivering and afraid. Then, once this morbid little hunt is complete, Jack spreads out his trophies, including the children, all part of the cost of living in the land of the free, the risk of getting shot. To quote a late, great thinker,
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
That seems to be the messaging of this scene. That guns are an unmoving staple of American culture, no matter how many children get killed. Which is a contentious issue that Lars takes on with brutal imagery designed to shock and appall. But inside of that imagery is a dark message. There are real victims to gun violence, and the crassness of the cultural dialogue around it, especially when talking about issues like school shootings, all seem to forget that this is a very real problem. All right, I almost didn't include this part of the video because it's just sadistic and depraved, but that's kind of the Rocking Horror Picture Show's calling card, so I just forced myself to get through this section. Just for you guys. So, Jack takes the bodies of his latest victims to the murder freezer, and he realizes the potential for one of the children. They always called him Happy, and Jack thinks that that ideal should live on even in death. So, through the use of wires and strings and things like that, he's able to mold Happy's features so that they look more joyful. Happy even waves by the time he's done. Jack has taken a murdered child and turned him into literal taxidermy. His latest work brings him much joy, as every time he returns to the murder freezer, Happy is there to give him a warm smile and a friendly wave hello. It's just sadistic. I don't even know how Lars came up with the idea for this one, but let's hope this never inspires any real-life art. We've seen him kill random women and children alike, but now we're about to see what Jack is capable of with a woman he supposedly loves. That's right, we're entering the domestic violence chapter of Jack's biopic, and seeing as violence against women is one of the few subjects that makes me very uncomfortable when depicted in movies, this one is extremely hard to watch. Jack has already demonstrated a horrifying mentality to the various people in his life, but this one is dark in a brand new way, because Jack is clearly taking advantage of a slow person. Sure, Simple is stunning to look at, but her mind works just a little bit less expediently than other people's. She's a simple girl, like short bus Simple. And that's fine, except in those rare instances where a sociopathic killer decides to step into the role of caregiver. Unfortunately, that's exactly what Jack does. Jack doesn't seem to be a fan of Simple's simplistic mind. Ordinarily, this would be what the modern dating landscape might refer to as a deal breaker. Sorry, babe, you're just too stupid for me. Oh, okay. Yet Jack seems to derive sick pleasure from watching Simple squirm. He berates her constantly, gleefully explaining to a poor, dumb woman how limited her intellect really is. And eventually, Jack begins to seethe with rage. Like most who Jack has encountered, Simple can't appreciate his true genius, so he's prepared to make her a part of the gallery. Simple asks him what he does for work. A reasonable question to a romantic partner, and Jack gives an answer that I'm sure is far outside the range of those previously polled.
I'm a serial killer, Simple.
So are we talking like a lot of people or?
I've killed 60 people.
Oh, well that's not that bad. I mean, if you had said 61.
Why? Because I'm saying that I've killed 61 people.
Oh, well then. This news understandably alarms Simple, so she goes running out to the streets and reports the whole thing to a policeman. There's a psychotic man inside that she's found herself drinking with. She explains all of this with the coherency of a drunken arrest video that you'd find here on YouTube. My shameful addiction here on the platform. And, like many of those videos, the officer is like, "Go home and sleep it off, ma'am. I don't have time for your ridiculous stories about murdering boyfriends." And then, Jack adds to the unbelievability of the situation by drunkenly proclaiming to the officer that every word that Simple has stated is true. He is a murderer, but more importantly, he's also a bad boyfriend as well. Aww. The officer sees this heavily lubricated domestic dispute and sends them both out into the wild to deal with all of this in private. Sly commentary on how the justice system often overlooks real victims, putting most of its resources to prosecuting petty crimes. And, much like one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, the police send Simple right back into the lair of her abuser. Spoiler alert, she gets the Saw 3 treatment and loses her d***s. Jack eventually falls asleep in a drunken stupor, so Simple tries to slip out, hoping to evade Jack and make her escape. But before she can... Surprise, motherfucker! It slowly dawns on her. His weird confession, the strange demeanor, the drawing of cutting lines around her breasts. It suddenly dawns on her.
You're Mr. Sophistication, aren't you?
And Jack responds...
If you feel like screaming, I definitely think that you should.
Simple screams out, hoping for someone to come in and rescue her. And Jack tells her, "You call that a scream? This is screaming." He slams the walls. He calls out for help. He opens the window and cries out even louder. And then they are greeted with silence, a haunting observation about the deaf ear that the screams of victims often fall upon. Jack says as much. In this f***ed up world, we're forced to call our home.
Nobody wants to help!
What follows is probably the most uncomfortable part of the entire incident. Jack ties Simple to a radiator, and then he lays out a series of kitchen knives. They all look like they haven't been sharpened in ages, and are still grimy from years of use. Definitely not the top choice of tools for elective surgery. But Jack's already outlined his prize in red dotted lines along Simple's breastises. It is time to claim his prize. I really put myself through a lot for you guys. Jack slices off Simple's fleshy pear, which in the director's cut is shown in full detail. The knife cuts through each T like, well, a hot knife through butter. And Jack uses each T for a different use. The first breast he uses to pin on the windshield of a cop car. The same cop who, by the way, blew off the incident earlier. He's busy cracking down on the real problems in this town, such as loitering, completely oblivious to the actual crimes that he had let go. The second breast, he pulls a page from the old Ed Gein playbook and turns it into a coin purse. Personally, I think both of these projects were a huge waste of a great set. Sorry to be crass, but let's face it, are great, but honestly, they're only enjoyable when they're nice and warm and still attached to the body of a woman, but I digress. It is at the tail end of Act 4 that we hear some of Jack's most reprehensible ideas about murder as art. He goes over ideas like the noble rot, a fungus that allows grapes to ferment in an almost miraculous post-mortem process. Also, the importance of icons, where he admits to finding the iconography of Nazi Germany to be admirable accomplishments that stand the test of time, and the practicality of genocide. These are the confessions that finally get under Verge's skin, leading him to scream out,
"Stop it, you antichrist. I don't recall ever having escorted a so thoroughly depraved person as you, Jack."
Lars is doing something very clever here. As the film's visionary, one who's gotten much criticism for his work being too misogynistic or violent, he is self-inserting his own works to illustrate Jack's points, just to show how much of a villain he sees himself when it comes to art and culture. You see clips from Antichrist, Melancholia, and Nymphomaniac, what he refers to as his Depression trilogy. By doing so, he addresses many of the criticisms he's received for his work over the years. He seems to embrace his controversy, in a fashion not so dissimilar from Jack. Is Lars actually content to be the villain of the silver screen's story? In exploring the icons of fascism, we move on to the final act, the last incident of Jack's murder spree. The part where Jack himself explores the practicality of mass killing. In the final act of Jack's murder spree, we see the last phase of his evolution as a killer. It's no longer gratifying to kill one victim at a time. In fact, that's also kind of a waste. In his search to make killing more effective, he takes a page from a certain book of goose-stepping fascists on what to do about the problem of ammo shortages. He is now experimenting with the use of a single bullet to take out multiple victims. Waste not, want not, after all. So, Jack invites a group of men to come and hang out in his murder freezer. The way Jack figures it, maybe, if everybody puts their heads together, they'll help him discover the nature to his latest work. The men Jack has captured in the freezer are understandably cold, but Jack ignores their cries for help as he goes over a TED Talk about bullet casings. And the most effective bullet of all is the
Full Metal Jacket.
This profound type of round is unique in that it's able to tear through several human skulls with a single shot, and that's what this unfortunate group of bullet fodder is in for. One Full Metal Jacket round uniting their gray matter together in an ungraceful spray all over the wall. But before Jack can unload the round and blow their collective minds, one of the men points out that he's former military, and that the round that Jack is holding is not a Full Metal Jacket round. No, he's holding a regular bitch-ass round that most assuredly will not crack through all 5 of them. This information leaves Jack quite irritated. Jack's fury has reached a boiling point. He returns to the gun store in a fit of rage, berating the employee for being so stupid as to give him the wrong type of ammunition. Jack's anger has all built up to the boiling point. He's positively frightful to be in the presence of, as seen by the gun store employee with his broken speech and shaking hands. When Jack tries to buy bullets, the gun store employee demands ID, a reasonable request from a firearms store. But Jack tells him that the reason why he shops at Al's store is because they don't ask stupid f***ing questions. His quote, not mine. Then he asks the employee to sell him one single bullet just to expedite the process. The employee rightfully asks,
"Why just one?"
And Jack responds,
"Well, that would be none of your fucking business."
That's right.
When Jack realizes the sale will not go through, he storms out in a rage. And the employee immediately calls both the police and his boss, who Jack is about to make a house call with. Jack finally shows up at the trailer of the gun store owner, and the gun store owner informs him that he has finally realized after all this time that Jack is probably a murderer. I don't know how he didn't realize that earlier just by looking at him. I mean, Uma Thurman did. But regardless, the gun store owner has done the unthinkable in Jack's world. He's called the police, and they're on their way. So Jack realizes this is his last tango in Paris, or wherever the fuck this film takes place, and has one final drink with the gun store owner, reflecting on his years of buying ammunition, where this owner realizes that much of these rounds probably ended up in somebody's face. But as Jack goes to greet him farewell before he's arrested, he shoves a knife into the gun store owner's windpipe and dons his red cloak. When the police arrive, they think that he's the gun store owner, until he unloads more rounds into the cop's face. Then he jumps in a car and hightails it back to the murder freezer. His life's work isn't complete yet, and he has things to do before his story is over. The jig is up. Time is running out. He needs to shoot his shot before the cops finally bust in. Sadly, he still can't line the shot up perfectly. There isn't enough room, unless Jack is able to open the mysterious door that's refused to budge since buying the freezer. And behind that mysterious door, while he tries to set up the perfect shot, he meets the person he's been chatting with throughout the movie, Verge. Verge welcomes Jack to the portal of the underworld. He's ready to guide him to the many levels of hell. However, there's one issue that needs addressing. You see, Jack has created many compelling murder scenes across his life, but he was never able to accomplish his greatest dream of all, building a house, save for a grim skeleton that sits beside the lake. But fortunately, he has an entire freezer full of what he likes to refer to as divine material, frozen like noble rot, ready to be assembled for his greatest accomplishment, a house built from his victims. This is no longer a metaphor. Jack literally pieces together a house with the frozen corpses of his victims. And, unlike the ones he tried to build by the lake, this one actually stands. Verge and Jack look out at his life's work with an approving nod. I guess Verge has changed his outlook about Jack's life's work. He's now a fan of a murder house. I don't know who or what made him switch up his tune. Glenn Gould, perhaps? The door to Jack's freezer is quickly being cut down by the police. Doesn't matter. Jack has accomplished his life's dream. He's ready for what's next. The door is bent in, and a hand with a pistol reaches in, pointing right at Jack, and 2 bullets fire into the back of the room. Jack descends into the hole that Verge crawled out from. Did the bullet kill him, and he's now experiencing an end-of-life dream? Or did he actually find a portal to the great below? The film never definitively says, but it honestly doesn't matter. Jack's life has all come to a close, his work standing tall and proud above the ground he descends into. The life's work of a man who is truly chock full of sophistication. Which brings us to the final act, Jack's Dante-style descent into the 7 circles, and this is one of the best epilogues to any film ever, with some of the coolest shots that have ever been put on film. Jack's story has come to a close. Now, it's time to pay the piper. This is where the 2 storylines converge. The 5 randomly chosen incidents and the narration from Jack and Verge. Now, they have time to take that journey and talk. Verge leads Jack down into the underworld, the true house that Jack has built, his own personal hell. And each shot of this personal hell is a true work of art. The serene floating in the clear pond, the bubble pods that float them down to the next level of their journey, the suffocating sulfur caves which close around them and push the 2 closer to the water. This is where Jack begins to hear a noise, a high-pitched buzz that pierces his ears. Verge explains that this sound is the sound of hell. Millions of screams all at once. Some scientists have studied this for years from the surface, only getting back faint hums. But as they descend into hell, Jack hears the true nature of evil, screaming more loudly with each step that they take. They travel to the edge of a cliff. They then descend a ladder propped against a wall of corpses. They walk through blood-soaked landscapes, traverse the many seas with strange, naked men, like a Renaissance painting. And finally, the part of the journey that breaks Jack's heart, the Elysian Fields. Jack can only see these fields through a window, but there, in those fields, Jack sees men working, scything the grass with steady, united breath, signaling each draw. Earlier in the film, Jack confesses that this is the only peaceful memory he's ever had as a child, watching the men work in the field, scything down the grass. He said that the meadow had a breath to it, the one time that he was able to appreciate life. And as Jack stares out into the Elysian field, he does something unexpected. He tears up. Maybe, somewhere within all of that horror residing in his head, there's still a place that hopes for peace. Something that he knows he'll never get now. Now that he's chosen his path. The one that leads him to the great below. And as the frenzied images of the people he's killed flood the screen, you realize that hell's cruelest trap is the one that you have built for yourself. The final step of hell is a Luciferian challenge of hubris. A broken stone bridge that once stretched over a deep lake of fire lies in ruins. However, circling that bridge is a Planet Fitness style rock climbing wall. Verge tells Jack that if he can successfully climb his way around to the other side, he can leave this place. But Verge has one dire warning.
Quite a few have tried, but I have to say, never successfully.
So, Jack, being a humble man with a realistic self-image, will see the futility of attempting to climb to the other side, right? Oh, well, who would have seen that one coming? And so Jack climbs, wishing Verge farewell. He slowly makes decent progress as he goes from step to step to the other side, until, about halfway around Hell's rock climbing wall, he finally slips. Jack fails the test, descending down into the lake of fire below. The shot slowly burns into a film negative, the dark light from the fire pit shining through the lens, the shrieks of hell getting louder and louder. And then... yeah! Oh, fuck yeah! Oh, this is my jam! What a jamming f***ing tune to end such a dark-hearted tale. Every time I hit the credits, no matter how heavily the movie watching experience weighed me down, will always be one of my favorite parts of a good horror movie. The perfect credit song, maybe only outgunned by Cabin in the Woods. Chef's kiss, my peeps. Anyway, that's the story of Jack. Any questions? Okay, let's give this one some post-mortem. All puns intended. There are a lot of themes to this movie. Lars is never satisfied to go down one singular route when it comes to the messaging of his films. But the one theme that seems to stick out to me the most is the pressure we have as people to make something that lasts. There's this scene in Fight Club where Tyler Durden asks the members of Project Mayhem,
"What would you wish you'd done before you died?"
One of them responds,
"Paint a self-portrait.
"Build a house."
And I think that's the same thing that Jack would want at the end of his tortured existence. Something that will live on longer than he. Most people struggle with this, and have since the dawn of humanity. We know that one day we are going to die. A common thread throughout all of us. And maybe, worse yet, our life will have meant nothing. That thought is almost scarier than death itself. So we write that novel, we paint that portrait, we create that YouTube channel. The ultimate legacy to many is family. But let's face it, giving birth takes time. Genetic legacies are longer to process. But mimetic legacy is something that can live on in the hearts and minds of many. Hence the popularity of art, culture, and even religion. Ideas are the true uniting force of life, which is why each pursuit is so important to people. It helps them effectively deny the simple, terrifying fact that one day we are all going to die, and maybe they'll be forgotten. That's why Jack's pursuit of a legacy is so fascinating to watch. He'll never build that structure that symbolizes his life's work, and he's so desperate to give himself meaning that he'll delve into the pits of hell to draw inspiration for a legacy that will outlive his existence. Bowie's song Fame, playing in the background repeatedly, is a manifestation of his fear that his life will have been of no consequence. If murder is the price he must pay to be significant in this life, maybe that's a piece of his soul that he's willing to dispense. Ultimately, though, Jack realizes that his pursuit of a legacy has kept him separated from the one thing that ever gave him joy as a child: harmony. Not even with his fellow human, but with life itself. He realized in that moment that there was a pulse, a beat that binds everything together. And staring at that pulse from the other side of the window in his personal hell, he's forced to wonder if his actions have kept him forever separated from the true purpose and meaning of life. Or, maybe he just really liked to rearrange body parts because he was a huge Mr. Potato Head fan as a kid. It's hard to say. The point is, Lars has done it again, making masterful commentary on art and philosophy through the grim lens of murder. The movie is not an easy watch, as captivating as the imagery often is, and it doesn't sit easy upon your first viewing. But ultimately, it does something truly unique. It finds beauty and meaning in the midst of homicidal ideation. And that's pretty cool. I thought I was the only one who found beauty in murder, and now I know I'm not the only one. Anyway, that just about does it for this week's episode of The Rocking Horror Picture Show. Let me know about your thoughts about the house that Jack built in the comments below. Did you love it? Hate it? Didn't watch it and let me do all the heavy lifting? Whatever the case may be, drop your comments below. And until next time, I'm your host, Sleeve T. And, as always, I'm doing just fine. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Sleeve T. I wanted to thank everybody for participating in the Rocking Horror Picture Show by giving you access to all the best stuff. That's why I am officially making my Patreon only $1 a month. I only created it so I could have a place to give you guys uncensored episodes, and I want you all to have easy access to that. So, go down to my Patreon, pay $1 for 1 month, and get the full catalog completely uncensored. I'll still put your name in the credits right here, because I love you all so very much. It's been a pleasure to serve all this depravity up to you on a silver platter, and I can't wait to do so again very soon. Until next time, I'm your boy, Sleeve T. Rock and roll.